Little Big Planet, one of the many video games that has helped the PS3 and Sony jump up the charts as a top video game provider. The game is seen as fun, fast-paced, funny, and most of all, inventive. Now, over the years, several sequels and a couple of spin-offs were released. However, the community was suffering from a lack of creativity and, to be honest, well-made levels. The horror genre levels is particularly guilty of this, with copy after copy of the same levels being put out by millions of creators claiming that they made it. Still, there were some diamonds in the rough made by people who had a very nice sense of both what horror is and how to pull it off right. However, there was a level that I played in LittleBigPlanet 3 that not only managed to frighten me, it downright scarred me. I was playing LittleBigPlanet 3 one day, mostly just making some horror-type music, when I suddenly felt in the mood for a good scare. I hopped into my pod and headed to the community section. I searched horror and found a lot of copy levels, per usual. However, when I scrolled down a bit, I found a level called Your True Self. It didn't seem to have many plays, or that many hearts for that matter. The picture on the level badge seemed to be a mirror with a bloody handprint on it. I checked the description of the level and found that it had said, "Have you looked at yourself in the mirror and ever thought that you didn't look right? If you have, then you were looking at your true self. PlayStation Eye required." A level that requires the PlayStation Eye, I had thought. Why have I never seen that before? Was there an update that I missed? I pondered the requirement for a moment before curiosity got a hold of me. I plugged in my PlayStation camera and went into the level. I noticed that the load time was relatively short compared to most other horror levels. Either the level didn't have a lot of logic, or it was poorly made. When the level finished loading, I spawned in what seemed to be the bathroom of a house. It was run down and seemed to be in a very bad state of disrepair. There was grime on the walls, the light was flickering at short intervals, and dust was accumulating on the floor. My Sackboy looked visually scared, even though I didn't hit any emotion buttons. Must be a Sackbot, I assumed. I walked over to the mirror of the bathroom, and a cutscene started to play. Sackboy wiped off the mirror and looked at himself for what felt like a minute. Soon, he backed away from it and looked around slowly. While he was doing that, I noticed that his reflection was still looking forward. In fact, it seemed to be looking straight at me. When I moved my head, the reflection followed my eyes. Was this what the PlayStation Cam was for? If it was, then it certainly worked in giving me a few shivers. Sackboy then turned back around, and his reflection went back to normal. Soon, I was back in control. I walked over to the door of the bathroom and grabbed it, letting me into the rest of the house. I saw that the entire house was decrepit. The furniture was ripped in multiple places, there was dust everywhere, and the TV was turned to static, with white noise flooding the speakers. It definitely has the creepy aspect down, I thought. As I walked around, I thought that I heard whispering when I was passing by one of the doors. I ignored it and kept moving on. Eventually, I came to a set of stairs that was going up. When I went up the stairs, I then found myself in what seemed to be an attic. I saw that there was a sheet of paper on the floor, and I picked it up. A text box that came up. Have you ever wondered about what you actually look like to other people? Have you ever wanted to see the manifestation of your true self? If you have, then go back to the mirror and stare at it for exactly 1 minute. If you don't want to see who you really are, then run. For God's sake, just run. I sat there, shivering a little from the message. What was I supposed to be running from? A demon? Myself? Fear itself? No. I would never do anything bad. Nothing at all. As soon as I went back downstairs, I saw that the TV was off. I immediately stiffened up. I was not alone. I walked cautiously back to the bathroom and closed the door as soon as I got in. I walked over to the mirror and noticed that Sackboy once again seemed to get scared without me pressing anything. A cutscene had started once again, with Sackboy looking into the mirror. When I moved in real life, Sackboy seemed to follow me again. If it was the PlayStation cam or not, I'll never know. Soon, after counting exactly 1 minute in my head, the cutscene had ended. I sat there, utterly confused and, quite honestly, annoyed. The song was too sluggish, and I was doing too much waiting. I pressed start and was about to return to my pod, when a message came up that instantly made me go from annoyed to scared. I unpaused and looked back at the mirror. Sackboy's reflection was pure black. Soon, it floated out of the mirror and landed on the ground. It looked at Sackboy and smirked, beginning to walk towards him. I turned around and mashed the door button as fast as I could, but the door wouldn't budge at all. I saw that the shadow was getting closer by the second and kept mashing the door button. Soon, the door had finally unlocked, and I ran out of the bathroom. I ran to the front door of the house, hoping to get out of there. Unfortunately, it was blocked off with chains. I looked back to see Sackboy's shadow creeping ever slowly toward me. I ran and jumped over him, running up to the attic. I then realized that I had made a huge mistake, as there were no windows in the attic to jump out of. Soon, the shadow had walked up the stairs and began to slowly advance towards Sackboy. I ran and evaded him as best as I could, but I wasn't fast enough. As soon as the shadow touched Sackboy, the screen went black, and I jumped back and let out a loud scream, one that sounded almost real. It soon faded back in, with Sackboy lying in a pool of black ooze, and the shadow looking down at him. Soon, it slowly looked up at me and smiled as a text box came up. Now you know what you are. You and the rest of those pathetic humans are dark inside. To try to say this is true. Is you and I know that it is. Here. The shadow picked up Sackboy and threw him at the screen. Sackboy bounced off the screen, causing him to wake up. This time, I'll let you go. But if I catch you down here again... The shadow looked at Sackboy, then back at me. The screen soon faded to black, and I watched Sackboy wake up in his pod and smile, happy that this nightmare was over. I, on the other hand, felt scared for my life. I turned the PS3 off and walked to my bathroom to wash my face. When I got in there, I looked at the mirror for a while before turning on the cold water and rinsing my face off. When I looked back up at the mirror, I shivered as I thought I saw my shadow moving.